Welcome to the Scott and Holman podcast. Back here in the midweek in our usual spot, kind of in a not a weird spot. That's the wrong word for it, but March Madness and Houston Cougar men's basketball are obviously such a big part of the week that was, and we talked a fair amount about that. I think we covered not all, but most of what we have to say about that. Selection Sunday being a few days ago at this point, and the game coming here in almost 48 hours exactly as we record here on Wednesday night. Is obviously gonna have some more thoughts on Cougar men's basketball, though I think this episode is more of a roundup of what's been going on and what's to come for everyone who's not the men's basketball program. Believe it or not, Bobby, we field 17 intercollegiate athletic teams over a variety of seasons. So we try to talk about most of them here on the show. Only been a few days since we last talked. How you doing, friend?
Buddy, I'm good. I literally got done with my round of golf, walked in here and started recording a Houston Cougar podcast. I've had worse days in my life. So
Not
doing
bad.
pretty good. How about you, man?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Dustin is not with us tonight. I would normally invent an embarrassing or a funny story about why he's not here, but he's not here. It's his birthday. One happy birthday, Dustin. You're only 25 once in this life. But I guess that counts as making an age joke. But no, Dustin is either en route to or probably walking into Rice's Reckling Park to go watch the Cougs tonight, celebrating his birthday by watching college baseball, something he enjoys immensely. So we'll not razz him anymore, just in
Yeah, he
principle.
deserves that one. He
Yeah,
deserves that
one
one.
one it's his birthday. Two, he's missing the pod to see an actual Cougar sporting event in person, something you and I don't have the luxury of doing as often as we probably like, and living in locales a bit further from the greater Houston area. Though our hearts are always in America's hottest, sweatiest, and most wonderful city, Houston, Texas, H-Town, Bayou City. Can't think of any more nicknames here, and I'm gonna power through, Bobby, unless you want to add on to whatever it is
No,
I'm
man, have
doing
fun.
here
You
right
just
now.
keep doing what you're doing, man. You
I
keep doing
keep
it. I
burying
trust
myself
you.
here. No, got a little our usual admin at the top. Going to mention our friends Charlie Hustle, charliehustle.com, makers of incredibly comfortable vintage wearables, often colleges like your Houston Cougars, nearly the entire Big 12 at this point now with their new Cincinnati Bearcats collection as well. They're great stuff. A great Cougar collection. You guys have probably seen the recent jackets that are out there. I got the mercy, Bobby, of almost 2 weeks. I guess it's still technically jacket weather in the morning here to rock my awesome new vintage Cougar jacket. I'm also wearing the white Five Slam Jamma tee that the people watching a video got to see approximately 1/5 of. Really fantastic Cougar collection, Cougar football, Cougar basketball specifically, and just some great vintage, comfortable Cougar designs. So use our promo code SHP15, SHP15. That's going to save you 15% on your Charlie Hustle order, charliehustle.com. Support our friends in Kansas City, and of course, support our friends at Autograph, available on Android and Apple. Fantastic app to follow your Houston Cougars. Lots of awesome true fan pricing, super cheap March Madness tickets. Bobby, we were actually texting about this today. Not cheap to get in the building to see March Madness. Would very much recommend it. I've gotten to see the Cougs a couple different times in the postseason. Dustin has as well. We actually were at the Sweet 16 and rounds of 64 and 32 together in Tulsa in 2019. So I think we could both speak to what an incredible experience that is, but it is never a cheap experience, even for the earlier rounds there. Autograph allows you to get in the events cheaper, and also on a day-to-day basis, follow your Cougars. Use our sign-up code SHPAWD, SHPOD. That's use link.ag.fan/SHPAWD. I'm going to put that at the top of our episode description, like I've done the past couple shows. If you are not on Autograph, please get there already. They support our show, and you can support our show just by downloading a fantastic free app, the home of crazy fans, the home of college fanhood, Autograph. Please download Autograph wherever you get podcast apps. And of course, I'm going to mention obligatory patreon.com/SH podcast. If you like what we do and want to put just a few bucks a month behind it, go to patreon.com/SH podcast. Allow us to get some financial support for the show that we do here on a weekly basis, talking about the Cougars. Bobby, I'll say here, we covered the subject, I think, pretty well within an hour or so of the bracket release on Sunday. It's on your podcast app that's out there, but want to kind of throw it to you and just you kind of see what additional thoughts have you had in a few days since we recorded about the Cougars' first round matchup, the Cougars' potential matchups, anything new you have on Cougar men's basketball?
Man, I won't say that I've done this huge deep dive on our opponent,
Frame by
Longwood.
frame, we're looking at all
Yeah,
Longwood
yeah.
sets.
I haven't been like breaking down tape over the last couple of weeks or the last couple of days, but like the thing that really has been blowing my mind and the thing that just like has me excited, but also just like that Cougar fan in me worried is it's weird seeing people actually take us, right? Like seeing Jay Billis take us is like, and then post multiple videos defending why he thinks we're going to win. And just like, not that Jay Billis is like the best guy in the world and the best analyst of all, but like people like him have
Mainstream
never taken
analyst.
us. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. People like him have never taken us. Like that's like it's just crazy, man, to just think that we are the number 2 overall seed. We're the number 1 school in the country, according to the AP, heading into this tournament. The committee put one team over us. And I would imagine, even if we still lost to Iowa State, but we lost by a much narrower margin, there's a chance we would have been the number 1 overall seed. It's just, it's just, that's been the crazy part to me. And then you see a lot of people who talk about the metrics that you used at the last 20, the last 20 national champions have been this and this in KenPom, or this and this in their efficiency, or this and this in total defense, or whatever it is. And like, we're one of 4 teams that are meeting those almost every criteria. It's just like, I mean, there's a guy on TikTok who I kind of watch, and I like his stuff, and he talks about the trapezoid of excellence, and it's really talking about turnovers and pace, and there's a lot of things in it, and like we're in the far end of the trapezoid, like we're on the border of almost playing too slow, but like we're one of 5 teams in the trapezoid. I know that doesn't mean much because if you don't know what the trapezoid is, but like
it's really awesome geometric. Oh wait, no, you're talking about trapezoid.
It's just like this idea that we're a legitimate contender. Not to say that previous teams haven't been legitimate contenders, right? Last year's team was a legitimate contender, but just like last year's team didn't seem to be getting the love heading into the tournament that this team is from the national press. And not that I'm saying like, oh, all the national people respect us and they want us to win, and but like we commented that it felt like we got kind of overlooked in the selection show, right? No, they didn't really talk about us. They talked about Kentucky as the 3 seed and all this stuff. And then you kind of pull away and you're just like, oh, a lot of people have us going to the Final Four. And that's really exciting for me. It's crazy to see how many people are taking 2-3 Big 12 teams in the Final Four. And it's like, if you're going to put 3 Big 12 teams in the Final Four, you're talking to the people who won the conference in the regular season. We've beat all those teams. Now, granted, one of those teams has beaten us twice, but they've kind of beat us at 2 home games. When they had to travel to play us and travel a long distance, we did pretty well against them. So it's a weird but exciting time to be a Houston Cougar fan. And like I said, I don't have any deep analysis of play or anything like that. It's just this weird feeling, and it's this feeling that I've had all year of this may be the team to do it. This may be the team to take the next step and actually do it. This team with Jamal Shed, I said that me and you have talked about this multiple times. The difference between our teams of the past couple of years and this team is Jamal Shed, man, and just how he just plays defense better than any guard we've had. Wills this team when it needs to. When this team isn't playing its best, Jamal Shed doesn't let this team lose. Outside of what happened on Saturday, and even that, you could tell everyone was just kind of like, yeah, this is fine. Wani didn't play a ton. So like that's kind of how I'm feeling right now.
Yeah, I won't mention him by name. I have no desire to, but I see a lot of like, oh, the junior senator from Texas had U of H winning his bracket. Oh, it's a curse. Like that. I'm going to point out, and this is, I'm going to do something again, very against tendency here, but wasn't he like front and center for at least a couple of y'all's, the Rangers home World Series games?
I don't
think
so.
I thought
because he loves him some Astros.
He does. And it's oh God, I don't get this guy. it is his hometown team. I think he at least posted support on social media of the Rangers, and you guys swept the Diamondbacks. So I don't know. I feel like that might have exercised that curse. Or Drake
would be nice.
Drake was at an NIL party or something.
Look,
like that.
Here's the deal with that. The Drake curse, you can say whatever you want to. If Drake wants to hang out with our team,
yeah,
it's a pretty good recruiting
pool,
guys.
He from Toronto? Isn't he from Toronto and at least like peripherally a Raptors fan, and they won it in the last few years?
Yeah. He won with the Raptors.
Yeah. Okay. Just gonna leave that out there.
Point that
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah. Throw that out there for anyone who wants. Just I find sports curse talk very dumb, and I really don't like talking about Drake or the junior senator from Texas in any form or fashion. But I feel like that deserves addressing here. Lacking better stuff. I don't really have a ton of new thoughts. Really nothing to add on to. I think some good thoughts that you had there. If I were to preview Longwood now versus like scrambling an hour after the game, Bobby, I don't know. Maybe I would have talked a bit more about them going 6-10 in Big South play.
Yeah,
But
that was kind of I like
yeah,
kind of mentioned it, and I was like, they finished fourth in the Big South. Like,
yeah,
I'm nervous, but I'm not nervous.
yeah. And also, I will say they got the auto bid by beating the Big South's best team by a wide margin, high points.
Yep.
I won't bag on the Lancers too much, but that was just something I noticed afterwards. Like, man, 6-10 in Big South play. I don't, anything can happen in March, blah blah. I just don't think it's going to happen for the Cougars, at least against the 6-10 team in Big South play. I think I'm more focused on, at the risk of one seed arrogance, that 8-9 game with Nebraska and A&M. They'll be tipping a couple hours before ours on Friday evening. Would also encourage anyone who's listening and for whatever perfectly valid reason hasn't listened yet to our last episode to go listen to episode 937, because I think it's all going to be still fairly current in the current week, and gives you a nice little primer to March Madness. All right, I think that's all of my miscellaneous thoughts on Cougar men's basketball, Bobby. If you have anything else, or if you don't have anything else, do you want to take us into the baseball talk?
Yeah, let's do some bat and ball sports. Sound
Hey,
good to you?
let's do it.
All right, so let's just kind of summarize the weekend. Coogs went to Provo, dropped two of three, which you don't always want to do on a weekend series. Thursday started off with a 9-2 win. Coogs jumped out to a 3-0 lead in the top of the first off a Trey Jones double and a 2-run Ace Reese triple. BYU answered right back with 2 in the bottom of the first. Jake Reynes homers in the second. Cougs get 4 in the fifth. Tag on 1 in the sixth for the 9-2 win. Just some interesting things that I noticed. Number one, we didn't treat this as a normal Friday, Saturday, Sunday series. Meadow got the start, very short start. Only pitched 2 1/3 with 5 hits and 2 earned runs. So not great, kind of coming back from the injury, if I recall. So interesting to see that he got the start there. You would have, I mean, I'm not a college baseball coach, and I know that a lot of these guys have a routine. You know, if you pitch on Friday, you're used to pitching on Friday. You have the rest, you have your bullpen sessions, you have your long toss, that kind of stuff. But I feel like if I were a college baseball coach, I would have treated this like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday rather than a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And I also just want to shout out Easton Jones. Went 2 for 3 with 2 walks as well. You got any thoughts on Thursday, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, and not to get ahead of ourselves in the game, the results weren't bad. The overall result of Friday's game, maybe less so, but I don't know. I feel like the results justified keeping Jackson Jelkin on Friday. Spoiler, he did quite well. They're kind of I felt like it was kind of a tandem starter situation. You see them sometimes do that. MLB teams do it in the minor leagues with guys, with Schmitz and Meadow, who are both guys I think we expected to be stars going into the season, but also guys who are still like working their way back to full health and the full arm strength that they expect in a starter role there. Schmitz has been really pitching well lately. Had 3 scoreless in this one. Was nice also to see U of H jump on the Cougs with a U's pitching early. Trey Jones and Ace Reese, like you said, getting things going. Harold Call continues to be one of your most consistent bats as well.
Yep.
He's been a really nice revelation coming into the team. Fun and weird stat, Bobby. U of H got 2 of their 4 runs in the 5th inning off of walked-in runs, and only got 1 other walk the entire game. Just again,
hey, man,
meaningful of anything, not really, but I love weird baseball stuff like that. And I was just gonna note that Chris Stewart also seems to lock himself in, or seems to be locking himself into being one of your better bullpen high leverage multi-inning guys, kind of in relief of the start. It seems like the general goal, not that they won't let him go deep if they're really having a great game, but it seems like the staff kind of is shooting for 5 or 6 innings from a lot of these starters, which is fine. If 5 or 6 innings is them at their absolute best, and kind of 7th and 8th is going to be diminishing returns, no need to extend guys. I think Stewart's been a good 2 to 3 inning kind of bridge to your closer in close games kind of pitcher, and it's been nice to see. But that's we should have been more indicative of what was to come this weekend. But it was a really nice opening win on Thursday night.
Yeah, and Friday, just kind of moving on to Friday, which I will tell you, I wrote down a Saturday throughout all my notes, and then I was like, wait a minute, no, the Mormons can't play on Sunday. So Just a side note on that, did you see some BYU people complaining about their seed because they can't play on Sunday? So like they were
60,
like,
60 was totally fair for them
yeah,
too.
they were like
Whatever.
they were like, oh, we'll never be a 4 seed because 4 seeds always play on Sunday, and it's like, then play on Sunday, bro. Anyways, sorry,
Yeah.
sorry, just a little sidetrack there. Friday,
The
uh,
few LDS listeners left from me making fun of Mormon churros a few episodes ago, Bobby, are gone now. Good job.
yeah,
Continue.
yeah, we're done. We're done. Friday saw an absolutely beautiful pitchers duel. Um, I will spoil it here and tell you that the Cougs didn't win, but man, I do love pitching duels like that. BYU puts up a run in the first, and Houston bats are quiet until the Jonathan French double ties it up. Bats went quiet again for both teams until BYU put up three on a on UH reliever Alex Solis. Cougs fight until the end with one in the ninth, and the Cougs actually lose 4-2. You really hate to see Jackson Jelkin get a stat line like that, go 6 innings, 6 scoreless innings, 13 strikeouts with a
What one
walk.
run, but still very
One
close.
run. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah. I literally just said that. One run, 6 innings, one run, 13 strikeouts, and a walk. You love seeing that performance. And to your point that you said earlier, it kind of justifies waiting till Friday to save the start. But unfortunately, you got a hell of an outing from the BYU pitcher as well. So, like I said, you hate using a start like that for it to go to waste with a loss like that.
Yeah, season long and innings pitched too. Really, really great outing. 13 strikeouts in 6 innings. Really good stuff. To date, Bobby, Jackson Jelkin is striking out over 14 batters per 9 innings, which is it's crazy regardless. It's even crazier for a starter. And I think it's good to see him kind of gradually building up arm strength, potentially see him going deeper. I mean, he was kind of in that 4 inning spot early in the season. You'd like to at least see him around 5 or 6 more often than not, especially if he's missing bats like he's been to start this season. And yeah, I'm still really positive about him having his best outing in a park that is certainly going to be more hitter friendly than average, just because you're playing at a much higher elevation than anywhere else you're going to
Right.
be in Big 12 play, or where you're going to play a weekend series, certainly this year. I mean, not as much nice to say about the hitting outside of Jonathan French, who had a nice 2 for 3 night in the 9 hole. Ace Reese continuing to be a clutch hitter, like you said, got that run late. But I think this game kind of laid bare some of this team's offensive problems. Not this is a bad offensive team or anything like that, but Justin Murray's a really good hitter. Justin Murray can't be an automatic 2 for 4 or 3 for 5 every game, because just no hitter is going to do
Can
that.
be.
Yeah, can't be. You need guys like Cam Nickens and Alex Lopez, who've been, returning starters, guys who have hit at a high level previously in their career, to have numbers maybe closer to that career average than the Mendoza line, which is where both guys are at right now. You're 1 or 2 hitters away from having a really salty lineup, but the problem is right now it seems like you're 1 or 2 hitters away a lot of nights.
Yeah, yeah, and that's kind of the thing with baseball is you can it's a little bit different than softball, right? Softball, which we'll talk about, obviously, is very much pitcher related. In baseball, you really do have to have both. And then Saturday, what a crazy game this one was. I'm not going to go through the entire scoring situation because
It's
there
too
was a
much.
lot. An absolute complete opposite of that Friday game. UH lost 10-8, but I find this box score so much more interesting than the actual game and going through the scoring. The Cougs used 8 pitchers. The most anyone threw was 2 2/3, and that was your starter. 4 guys threw less than a full inning. Houston left 11 guys on base. Just an insane box score, Sam. To lose 10-8, to leave 11 on base, to throw 8 pitchers, and you have a couple that don't even go a full inning. That is one of the crazier. You said you like seeing crazy things in baseball that kind of make you laugh and chuckle. 8 pitchers in a game in which one of the pitchers went longer than an inning, right? They went 2 2/3. So that means you had 6 1/3 were handled by 7 pitchers, which is just crazy, man. That's just absolutely crazy.
Yeah, kind of the opposite problem that you had on Friday night's game. Kind of like you said, I think probably your worst game this season for the combination of free passes and errors. Man, I mean, six walks, 3 hit by batters, 2 errors. I mean, that's 11 instances right there, Bobby, where a BYU hitter didn't have to get a hit to get on base, and that's a really hard thing to overcome. On the whole, I think this pitching staff has been better than the last several years, and in this weekend series, I mean, the pitching gave you more than enough to win the Thursday and Friday games, I think. But I mean, got caught like you see it. This wasn't your best pitching performance. Really nice game at the plate from Harold Call and the Cougar hitters generally. The level of hitting that Call gives you also while playing a middle infield position, really good stuff. I feel like
Really
anything you
great.
get above a certain point is a nice bonus. And I think he's well beyond that. This kind of felt like your classic college baseball final game of the weekend series.
Absolutely.
Pitching
Yep.
optional.
Yep.
Unfortunate you couldn't take advantage of good enough pitching the prior night to make this one kind of a nice bonus versus a must-win game. And I don't know, man. I kind of my last big picture weekend thought, and road series are hard, but I think this one felt like one you need to get at least 2 of 3 from. I mean, hopefully BYU
Yeah.
is better than you or I expect, but I think this just puts that much more pressure on you to do more against the really difficult parts of the league schedule. And I don't think we thought this would necessarily be that, unfortunately. Yeah, talking about a loss of 2 or 3 games in Provo.
Yeah. You really wanted to take 2 or 3 here just because you are going to be a bubble team this year.
No doubt. Yep.
My feeling is that this team's going to be good enough to be on the bubble. I don't think that we're going to go late into the season and be like, oh yeah, this, it's not going to be like a women's basketball situation where it's like, oh yeah, this has no chance of going. But I also don't think it's going to be uh, a volleyball situation either, where there's no doubt that they're going to make the field. I think this team is good enough to be on the bubble, but if you want to make the tournament, you're going to hear this a lot from me, kind of going forward. This is kind of a series that you kind of want 2 out of 3. And to your point, maybe BYU is better than we expect, and that this doesn't become as bad of a series loss as it may seem heading in.
Yeah, and I think you get looked at a little more harshly for losing series like this versus like they'll be random midweek games. Yeah, I mean,
Right.
it almost the midweek. It's almost like if you get a nice win there, you get credit for it. If you lose, well, it's a midweek series. You're not pitching your best. Like I
Yeah.
feel like I feel like
As long as you're not losing to like TSU in the midweek or something like that. Like, it's like, okay.
exactly.
Yeah. And speaking of midweek, yesterday the Cougars played the Rice Owls and got a 4-1 victory. If you're excited about the Cougars beating Rice and it being this great win, just a friendly reminder that this is not a vintage Rice team. This Rice team is currently 143rd in the RPI, and these are games that you need to win if you want postseason play. You can't drop games to RPI 100 and greater games if you can't do it very often if you want to come away and make the tournament. So yeah, so just really exciting to get the win. You always like beating Rice, but not one that feels like it was when we were maybe in school, Sam.
Yeah, it's so weird. They went from being just this like consistent juggernaut from when I was like a elementary school child until past my college years to now. I feel like for the 5th or 6th or even probably 7th time in a row on this podcast, you, Dustin, or myself has just been like, yeah, this isn't a vintage Rice team. It's just like, God, man, remember when these guys used to be good every year? And I know I'm putting myself in a weird spot here because there is a still to be decided baseball game going on right now between the Owls and the Cougars at Rice. But nice to get the midweek win. Really surprisingly well pitching for midweek college. Well pitched, excuse me, for midweek college baseball. But great effort regardless of who you're going against, especially from Cade Satelli, your starter. 4 scoreless, 7 strikeouts. That's pretty cool. Cougs did most of their scoring in the second in that one, thanks to Jake Arenas RBI infield single and Jacob Shane Vogel almost clearing the bases for a triple. Unfortunately, Jake Arenas got thrown out on that play there. Yeah, as we record and as I mentioned at the top, the Cougs are playing Rice at Reckling Park. Dustin is currently there in the flesh. Kind of weird, Bobby. I know you have to get the games where you can get him in. Like it's no, it hasn't been a conference series for over a decade now. But sort of odd to have 2 of the 3 games this season in like a 24-hour stretch. But I mean,
I
again,
thought that too.
yeah, not a real.
But you
complaint on
didn't
my
have a
part.
midweek.
Yeah,
You didn't have a midweek game last week,
yeah, no.
right? So you're kind of going, let's go ahead and do them here.
Yep.
Just to kind of shout out, you mentioned Cade Satelli. I want to point out Chris Stewart also goes 4 innings.
Yeah,
And
once again,
between the
yeah,
two
real
of them,
good
they
for
give
him.
up 1 run. Really, really big pitching there. Your starter goes 4, your relief guy goes 4. You come in, you close the door in the 9th. That's a pretty nice way to get a win with your pitching staff. So
Yep.
the
Currently
Cougars
score. I
as
was
Sam-
gonna say. Oh, sorry. We're gonna.
no, I was gonna say, as Sam said, Cougs are currently playing Rice right now. You probably already know the result as you're listening to this. But Sam, sounded like you had an update currently.
Yeah, I was gonna say almost pointless because by the time you were listening to this, because I'm not gonna edit this until later tonight, you will know the result of this game. But Cougs are currently it's scoreless, bottom of the first, guy on first, 2 outs. I don't know why I'm doing this, but just a nice little point in time that this game was at one time scoreless. I would assume it won't remain scoreless for the remaining nine
Well,
innings, but we'll find out.
we'll find out. This is us in the past talking to the future you. No, I think one of my favorite things about playing at Reckling, the few times that like I've been to Reckling to watch U of H games, this is just me kind of going off here,
No, go for
is
it, man.
is their reflection delay or the sunshine delay when the sun hits the hospital the right way and it delays the game for like an hour because
Oh yeah,
nobody thought that, hey, the sun might hit this baseball field in a bad way where no one can play baseball on it for an hour. Just a fun little quirk of Reckling Park, that if you live in Houston, you've never been to a game at Reckling Park, great place to watch a game. Um, Not that I like giving Rice credit for anything,
it's a good
but great
ballpark,
great place to watch a game. They used to let you go out and sit on
man.
the in the
It
outfield.
was BYOB too. It was so
It was
cool.
yeah, it was BYOB. You could take a cooler and sit on the hill and watch a fun baseball game. And so with that, I'm just going to tell this quick Dustin story since he's not here to defend himself. If you saw on Twitter where I said Dustin, it reminded me of this time Dustin ran over a kid. We were at Rice versus Marshall, and a home run was hit by a Rice player and just absolutely nuked it.
And we're sitting on the left field berm. If
Oh,
you've
yeah,
ever
we're
been there, they have like kind of the little raised area where you can like sit, and you used to be able to get in there for free. We were in there for free that night. I think now you have
yep,
to pay.
yeah, but we had a 6 pack of Miller High Life, and we were sitting there having a good time, and they hit a home run, and Dustin runs down the hill and slides. And this probably legitimately, if I'm telling the story legitimately, not as a joke, how I normally tell it, the kid was probably 9. Would you say, Sam?
I think so. I thought we were
Maybe
drinking St.
9.
Arnold's lawnmowers. I don't know
We
why I
might
had
have been
that
having
rhyming.
lawnmowers. I don't know. Maybe we were feeling rich that day, so we had lawnmowers. So, anyways, and Dustin didn't drink. So Dustin slides down this hill to catch this ball. And Dustin has pretty much stopped sliding. And this 9-year-old kid comes over and like tries to get the ball and runs over Dustin's leg. And it looks like Dustin slid tackle him, like just hit him with a slide
Yeah.
tackle in soccer. And it was going to be a straight red. And we're all just like standing there with our eyes wide. And Dustin, again, because he's a nice guy, gives the ball to the kid, and we just tell the story now like Dustin ran over a 3-year-old with no care in the world about it and just jacked this kid up. But the kid ran into Dustin, and it looked like Dustin just took him out to get this baseball. And it was just a story that I think we've probably told 500 times, and the kid gets smaller every single time we tell it.
At least you gave Dustin the benefit of the doubt that he didn't actually. I was gonna say he actually did behave appropriately here. So there you go, Dustin. If you're listening, you're probably not. We finally gave you some benefit of the doubt in the story.
All right. So now that we've talked about Rice and our fun times that we've had at Reckling Park, Big 12 play continues this weekend with Kansas State headed to Houston. Kansas State, just kind of looking at their schedule and their results and stuff like that, reminds me a lot of this U of H team in terms of their strength of schedule, who they've played, who they've beaten, all that kind of stuff. They can also score quite a bit. They do pretty well with their bats, just kind of going through their schedule, just looking at their lineup. They can put runs up, but they'll also give up some runs against some of the better teams on their schedule. They have dropped quite a few, have given up quite a few runs. And this U of H team, despite what happened on Friday, does seem to be able to put up runs against poor pitching. So just kind of excited to see how the Cougs do in this one. Currently, K-State is 51st in the RPI, while the Cougs are 53rd. Going into the weekend, I would kind of like to see us take 2 or 3 in this one. Again, we're going to talk a lot about this team just kind of going forward. Not that I want to speak for the whole podcast, but we're going to talk about this team being a bubble team who is going to have to win some games and is going to have to you're going to have a resume that you can build here, and winning 2 or 3 versus somebody who's also going to be on the bubble with you just goes that much further in the eyes of the committee.
Yeah, Wildcats coming to town on a 6-game winning streak. They had their turn for the rotating non-conference series last weekend against Missouri State. Won their Big 12 opening series prior to that against Cincy. Actually, no hit the Bearcats in the Friday night opener, which you were 100% right, by the way. This is a pitching optional team a lot of times, but they randomly have a
No,
no
no.
hitter, no in there as well. Baseball, weird sport, absolutely love it. I will say, if you're going to have a pitching staff with an area that's in the high fives like K-State, ideally it'd probably be one that could still strike out opponents a fair amount, doesn't give up too many free passes. And to be fair, both of those things describe K-State. They could be a bit susceptible to the long ball, which could be to the Cougs' benefit this weekend. I will say individually, Jackson Wentworth will be one of the better bullpen arms you see all season, striking over 14 per 9, already has 4 saves. It's going to be a really good lineup. It's definitely a lineup that's going to challenge your pitchers. 5 every game lineup guys hitting well over 300, 5 different guys with at least 4 dingers so far this season. Way to single out Brady Jones specifically, just hitting a little under 400 with 6 homers. Bobby, I was going to say, excuse me, Brady Day actually went back to school as a 12th round pick last year.
I saw that.
Keeps
and
this up. He's probably
absolutely
gonna,
breaking.
yeah, keeps this up. He's probably going to be a bit higher this summer, and still, he's a 4th-year junior, so he still has at least a little bit of leverage left for teams to not just completely pay him like doo-doo like they do for guys who are at the end of their college eligibility. But as a team, like the Cougs, the Wildcats have been really aggressive and effective on the base pass. 51 steals and 59 attempts, at least coming into tonight. Not going to be easy, especially with last weekend being a series loss and kind of seeing some of this team's flaws. But like you said, I think the Cougs have to take 2 or 3 here to feel like you're still on track for a good first Big 12 season. Feel like you're on track for a season where you're at least in the tournament picture, on the tournament bubble, whatever you want to call it. Also saying this as the very last thing I say. You can add more if you want to. I'm saying the very last thing that I say, because I'm going to say it's very stupid and very unimportant, but the K-State baseball stats page has this weird, bold impact style font that makes it unnecessarily hard to read. I mean, you can go to the PDF document like I did. It's fine. It's not a real complaint, but who is asking for this? But Bobby can attest. I sent him a screenshot with like what is this effing font in all caps? It's just super weird and random. Good baseball team. Agree with you. Team with a very similar profile as the Cougs, and I think it's going to be a good series. Hopefully one that the Cougs can come out on top of more than their opponent.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't have much to add on to what you did. Just one that you want to see if you want to make the tournament. And that's really kind of a goal that I think we, the podcast, wanted for this team, is to make the tournament. And these are the ones you got to win to have tournament to be in the tournament. I think it is absolutely essential that you don't get swept. You need 2 of 3. If worst case scenario, 1 of 3 is you got to at least win one of them.
Agreed.
More than anything. So now that we're done talking baseball, you ready to move to the other bat and ball sport?
Let's do it.
All right, man. So the Cougs took the trip up north to Ames, Iowa. This was a series I really wanted us to win. Iowa State was kind of in that same range as the Cougs in Big 12 predictions. I think they were one of the lower.
They were
teams.
9th and we were 10th. Yep.
Yeah. They were 9th. We were 10th. This is one of those series that you really wanted to see some. If what we saw versus Texas was what we were hoping that it was, you really wanted to kind of take this one. And unfortunately for the Cougars, they did not. The Cougs dropped 2 of the 3 over the first 2 games. The Cougs gave up 18 runs, which is just not what you want to do against the 9th rated preseason team in the first 2 games. You don't want to give up those 18s. In fact, got run ruled, the game was stopped in the 6th inning on Friday. The third game ended up, the Cougs ended up winning 10-2. And this was a perfect summary of this team. When the bats are good, this team's really good. If the bats don't put up a ton of runs, the pitching just isn't up to the standard that it needs to be in order for this to be a team that's going to make a deep run. This team will easily give up. It sucks in a weekend you give up 25 runs and you had to score 10 in your last one. It's just really hard to describe what is happening with this team. It's just when the bats don't hit as much as you want them to, if they're not putting up 8, you may not have a chance to win the game. And that really kind of sucks, man. That really sucks as a lineup. You can imagine there's got to be some frustration in the field as you go in, you put up 6 in an inning, and then you come back and you give up 4, and then you put up 0 and you give up another 3. It's like, guys, come on. So the Cougs are going to give up runs. The question is always going to be, can they score enough? That's really the kind of preview of every single series that I have for us, and in summary of every series that we have. So, Sam, what did you think of this weekend?
I think it was a disappointing series. Not going to mince words on that. I know going on the road to win is never easy. And I think we said in our preview that I think we would have been fine with 2 of 3 in this situation. Failing to do that here, it doesn't retroactively take away how much joy I felt about getting that head-to-head win against the Longhorns. Nothing's ever going to do that for me, but it does maybe take the wind out of my sails a bit for any thoughts that I had that the opening Big 12 weekend would be, I don't know, indicative of a team that could be more competitive in conference play. I mean, giving up 18 runs in your first 2 games is bad. Even if your frame of reference is almost completely baseball, that sounds bad, right? In
Right.
softball, that I would say is it's the mathematical equivalent of giving up 23 runs over 2 games in baseball. And considering what a pitcher dominated sport it is, it's really freaking bad, really, really bad. And it goes back to the fact that this head coach and the staff didn't bring in nearly enough proven pitching when it retooled the roster pretty dramatically for Big 12 play over the summer. And I won't let the bats off entirely. If the conditions in Ames, were cold and windy and conducive to offense, why didn't you tee off on the worst pitching team in the Big 12 besides you? Like I won't let the bats totally escape here, even if they had a nice game to avoid the sweep in the last one on Saturday. I mean, Paris Lehman and Shelby Smith have both done good things in the circle this season, but ideally they're probably your secondary pitchers to a go-to staff ace. And unfortunately, that go-to staff ace just doesn't exist on this roster. Even the slightly more respectable output in game 2 of Friday's doubleheader, Bobby, the 4 runs and 5 hits, you didn't get a single hit in the final 4 innings against an ISU pitching staff that came into this weekend with, again, the worst numbers of any opponent that you will see in Big 12 play this season. Happy the weekend ended on a positive note with that 10-2 win on Saturday. 7 different Cougs got a hit in that one. The Cougs put up a 9 spot in the first and never really let the Cyclones back in the game. And I guess I'm okay with getting nearly all of your runs in 1 inning in the situation like Saturday when you're putting up a 9 spot. But I don't know. Like it just seems like you should have added more pitching in the offseason, and seems like you don't have a sufficient amount of pitching to really do anything of note in conference play. And then the frustrating thing is that this didn't used to be that kind of program. In a
Yep.
much
It
more
used to be a pitching dominated program.
pitching dominated program in Conference USA, you cannot tell me that this program has fewer resources in the Big 12 than Conference USA. Does it have as many as it deserves? Does it have enough to be a top 25 team? I don't know. I'm not even going to say that it is, but I think it has enough resources to not give up 18 runs in 2 games to the team that was picked 9th out of 10 just ahead of you in the preseason Big 12 standings. Like that's frustrating. It wasn't, not everything was bad this weekend, but I think you really need to get 2 or 3 out of the series and you didn't.
Yep, absolutely. And the Cougs are currently taking on SFA. Actually, that game may have just finished.
Oh yeah.
Actually, SFA, the Cougs were up 17-5 in the 5th. So I think that may be the end of this game. But either way, Cougs out big 17-5. Another prime example of this team. How many times can we say it? You put up 17. Was it against a kind of poor SFA team? Yes. Did you also give up 5 to a kind of poor SFA team? Also, yes. So it's just a classic Cougar softball of the season. You're just going to kind of have that. But like I said, the game's still going on, but it is currently 17-5. All right, so the Cougs do have a shot at a resume builder when Kansas comes into Cougar softball stadium this weekend. Just kind of looking at Kansas's resume, Kansas has a win over a good A&M team, and they swept a really good top 25 Baylor team. Looking at their results, they look like a team that is built to be good at softball, right? They pitch really well and they scrape enough runs to survive. That's kind of how you win in softball. If you look at any of the good teams, you give up 2, you score 3. Complete opposite of what the Cougs do. So should be a fun series. 2 of 3 this weekend feels massive in that resume building, while getting 1 win feels pretty realistic. Sam, what do you think?
I would say 2 isn't impossible. I mean, I'm not expecting that, but UCF did take 2 or 3 against them in Orlando. I mean, UCF's probably better than the Cougs this year, but I don't know. Like this lineup was able to hit some really good Texas pitching. Like I think they're kind of a wild card in not the positive way away from Houston. But the 1 of 3, I'm not gonna try to draw big conclusions from the 1 of 3 against the Longhorns 2 weekends ago. But if you can hit that pitching more than one game, I think you potentially do something here. Even acknowledging Kansas is really good. I had in my notes, Bobby. Believe it or not, like you said, they built their team around 2 dominant pitchers who have pitched nearly all of their innings. Can you believe that? Can you believe that?
What a crazy thing to think to do, buddy.
Yeah, what a crazy way to build a softball team. But a good
I
strength
would
on
have
strength
never.
matchup. Like you said, KU's strong pitching staff versus a Cougar lineup that we've said multiple times in here is capable of hitting against some really strong opponents. Just, I mean, concerned as usual about the lack of proven pitching and just whether that's going to bite the Cougs in this one. But like you said, not necessarily a Kansas lineup that has a lot of really powerful hitters. A team designed to win a lot of 2-1, 1-0, 3-1 kinds of games, like a lot of softball teams. But I think you covered it pretty good. Nothing else really new to add about the Jayhawks softball team.
All right, buddy. You ready to kick back and relax for a little bit while I talk some golf?
Hello, friends.
Hello, friends. Yeah. So, men's golf, the Cougs hosted the All American Intercollegiate up in Humble and finished fifth out of 20 teams. The Cougs also had a B team play who finished 19th. So, not great on the B team, but your B team's going to be your freshmen, your guys who you don't expect to play in conference, things like that, that you just want to get some tournament experience. That's part of the benefit of hosting a tournament like this is you can get some guys who don't have a ton of experience, tournament experience, playing a little bit of golf. So, not I wouldn't be concerned with the B team finishing 19th. They're playing the other schools A teams and they still beat one of them. So kind of a nice thing there. Um Cougs they finished 2 behind number 4 Texas Tech. There were 6 Big 12 teams participating and the Cougs did finish second. Behind only number 9 Texas Tech, which is a really nice thing heading into Big 12 conference. The Cougs did really well in the match play in the fall. So there's a lot of confidence in that this team may not win, the Big 12 championships this year. The Big 12 is such a good golf conference, but there's a little bit of confidence that maybe this team can make the tournament, make a regional, something like that, and get to play some postseason golf, which is the right step forward for this program. Then on a singles note, De La Fuente finished third, 1 shot off the lead. Jacob Barrow finishes T14 with a stellar 2 over. The biggest shock for me was Grant Doggett, who shot a 12 over on day 1 and then bounced back and shot 5 over on day 2 and a 1 over on the final day. So something happened on that on that first day. Really, if you kind of take him down to that +5, that puts the Cougs pretty close to the lead, if not winning this tournament. So you just kind of had one bad round. And those of you who play golf can understand that, like, when one bad thing happens in your round, it just kind of snowballs. And no matter how mentally tough you are, a double bogey leads to a double bogey leads to a bogey. And next thing you know, the wheels have come off and you forgot how to swing for 6 holes. So it just kind of happens. That's kind of one of the things with golf. And to come back and bounce back with a 5 over and a 1 over on the final day just is a really good bounce back. So something to kind of be excited about. And then the ladies, they traveled to Arizona and participated in the Mountain View Collegiate. They finished 12 strokes off the lead, but they did finish third. And finished. There was kind of the top 2 tiers of the top 2 teams. South Florida and A&M finished well ahead of the pack, and then Houston kind of led the rest of the pack, if that makes sense. So the Cougs finished 4 under. Arkansas 1 under behind them. Iowa State 1 under behind them. K-State 3 over. So there was kind of that kind of seven strokes there. Just by naming those teams, you saw we beat 2 Big 12 teams there, along with TCU, Oklahoma, and that is all the Big 12 teams. But, if you're beating Big 12 teams, that's really all you can do. This Cougar women's golf team has been there's been some things that have kind of concerned me in the past couple of tournaments, but they've really come back and answered. Moa Saviniskold really kind of didn't have her best two tournaments leading into this tournament. The last two, there was just kind of a struggle. You could see something was kind of going on. And maybe it was early season jitters. At the end of the day, she is a sophomore, I believe, off the top of my head. I
Yep,
don't have
she
it
is.
written down. She's a sophomore, so you're going to have kind of that a little bit. She's playing her second year of college golf. Um, and she's been kind of the leader of the team last year and this year. So, but watching her bounce back to finish T11 at 3 under, and Malin Kim, the freshman sensation, finishing T11 at 3 under as well. So super excited for this team. They seem like they're bouncing back a little bit. And like I said, the concerns I kind of had over Moa Saviniskold going into this tournament, it was kind of is this going to continue to happen? And they are college athletes after all. You know what I mean, man? Like,
Oh yeah.
she could have had midterms, something, anything could have happened. So seeing her bounce back is very exciting for a fan of Cougar women's golf.
No doubt.
So that's kind of golf. Sam, I know track participated in some events, and you are going to tell us a little bit more about that, and I'll kind of pipe in there. How's that sound?
Sounds good, man. Yeah,
Cool.
the Cougs opened their outdoor season last weekend. It always sneaks up on me how quickly outdoor season comes after NCAA indoors. The Cougs hosted one of the program's regular events, the Kirk Baptiste Spring Break Invitational on campus last Thursday. Also had some athletes go over and participate during the weekend at the TSU relays as well. Wanted to lead this off by shouting out a pair of freshmen, Michaela Mouton, who's coming off a great indoor season. She was one of the legs of that podium placing 4x4 relay at NCAA's. She set the meet record and won the women's 200. Aaron Crittenden, another freshman, won the men's 800. Still really early, but both of those performances, Bobby, are the current seventh fastest times nationally in their respective events. Not a bad way to kick off your college
Yeah, that'll
outdoor
work, man.
tracker.
That'll
Yeah,
work.
that'll work. Another veteran, or excuse me, a veteran on the opposite side of the spectrum, David Ajama, has the current second best mark in the country in the triple jump. Had a best jump of 15.6 meters. Kevin Snyder was close behind him. Currently has the fifth best performance at 15.32 meters. Snyder also had a top 10 performance in the long jump as well. We had a podium finish there. On the women's side, freshman Genesis Griffiths, her third place performance in the outdoor, the women's long jump, her outdoor debut landed her just outside the national top 25. Another athlete to watch in the jumps there. Wanted to stick with the field events for a second as well. Ethan Marshall won the hammer throw, has the current 12th best mark in the hammer in the country. And Bobby, I always love new events where we haven't previously seen U of H really have a standout athlete worth talking about on this show. I think during indoor season, case in point, we really enjoyed Grant Levesque's excellent week in, week out
Absolutely.
performances in heptathlon. Christian Sampe, to go back a few years also, it was really nice to see his kind of rise in the pole vault. I remember when Dustin and I went to NCAA Outdoors in Austin, we were near the pole vault area because we were watching the long jump where the Cougars had both men's and women's athletes that were doing pretty well, and kind of said to ourselves, like, it'd be cool to watch an athlete in the pole vault. Like, it's a fun thing to watch
Yeah,
in person.
it's
Like,
really cool.
it is like all track events are really cool. All field events are really cool, but a human being taking this giant pole to lift themselves almost 20 feet in the air over a bar is like especially wild sporting thing. You're like, who thought of
Hey,
this? Who
my
thought of this?
last the job I had before this, one of the things, so we made golf shafts, but one of the other side of the business, and they made them in Fort Worth, was
Oh,
pole vault
nice.
poles.
Oh,
We made
awesome.
pole vault poles.
That's so cool. And like, so it's been cool to see Christian Sampe these last few years really become one of the best in the nation at that discipline as well. This is all a long-winded way of me shouting out SFA grad transfer Isaac Canchola, previous multi-time outdoor All-American and conference champion in the javelin, posted a top 3 U of H program performance in his outdoor debut. I believe
Wow.
as of this week, had the current 8th best performance in the javelin in the country. So excited to see what he does over the rest of the season, an event that we quite frankly haven't talked about ever when it comes to Cougar track and field. And I think we've gone pretty in depth on Cougar track and field over the years here. So good to, I was gonna say, gonna invest in some javelin talk here
Here
in
we
the
go,
next
bud.
few weeks, Bob. And I know all of this athlete has this best performance in the country don't mean a whole lot right now because we're still a long way from conference championships and even longer way from NCAA prelims, the outdoor championship, all that stuff. But I think it's good to see so many athletes who aren't the handful of names that we automatically talk about this program. Your Sean Maswanyanis, your Davion Wilson, Christian Samp, I mentioned a moment ago. It's good to see a bunch of athletes who besides maybe Michaela Mouton and Ethan Marshall and David Ajama, that I don't even think we've talked about on this podcast this season, putting
Yep.
up these really strong performances. A lot of freshmen as well. So exciting little debut to the season.
Yeah, man. Super, super exciting to see new events. I think that's a great way
Yeah.
to kind of say it is, while it is amazing to watch people run as fast as our track team does, it's kind of cool to watch them also heave a javelin that
Oh
far as
yeah.
well. You kind of lose the appreciation for for how fast those guys are running, but then what a crazy thing this is to do. So really cool anytime we get to talk new sports.
No
And
doubt.
final sport, I believe this is our final sport.
It
Correct me
is.
if I'm wrong. Let's talk about some Cougar tennis, bud. And I know since you are the Padel expert, we will defer to you for a little bit of tennis talk too.
Yeah, although I'm gonna throw to you in a second here, but don't worry, you're like, why am I gonna throw me? Trust me, you'll have plenty to say about this. Gonna do a quick recap since we're a couple weeks behind. The Cougs did lose all 4 of the matches since we last talked about tennis on a podcast. And the only positive I will generally note from that previous road swing to TCU and Baylor is that the Cougs did pick up the doubles point against Baylor, a good opponent, thanks to a tiebreaker win by Sonia Kovalenko and Sophie Skoden. So in that sense, did a little bit better than expected. Unfortunately, lost while not getting any team points against TCU. And Bobby, you were actually briefly out at the TCU match before rain interfered. How did that go, bud?
I'll tell you, there's a couple of things I noticed. One, this team isn't as far off as maybe the score suggests, right? You see 7-0, 7-0, not getting a point, but you just kind of see it's close, right? Like, yeah, they're not winning, and winning is the most important thing, and winning the point is the most important thing. But like, I stayed for all the doubles points, right? And if you've never been to a tennis tournament, it's insane. Everything's going at the same time. There's 3 games going on during the tennis point, during the regular
The
points,
doubles, yeah.
the doubles point. I'm sorry, I said singles. The doubles point, like 3 matches are going on at one time. It's pandemonium. Somebody will start clapping, and it's not the game you're watching. So, ton of fun, right? But this team wasn't getting blown out. It really felt like there was a lot of we were taking them deep into games. So it was going 40-30. It wasn't like, 40-15 or 40 love, anything like that. Like, it was definitely, we were making them work for it, which I know isn't this idea. And like, it, at the end of the day, to the point I just said, it doesn't really matter if you're making them work for it, if they still work for it and beat you. But I can see how this team was good last year, and now this year it seems like they're not. Because we've had that discussion, right? Like, this team was the team that would beat teams like McNeese and the lower ranked teams, and this year they're just not. And it just seems there's something just a little bit that's just not happening. Like, in hockey, they call it puck luck, right? It's
Yeah.
kind of the same thing. It feels like a year where in football you're not getting all the turnovers, and the turnover battle just isn't going your way, and you're not getting those bounces. Like, that just kind of feels like what is happening. The other thing I noticed, and this could be because it was a home match for TCU, but you can see the fact that they've been in the Big 12 for, what is it, 10 years now? Something close to that.
Yeah, I think 10 plus a couple, but I think.
Yeah, you can see the differences in the money. And not because their facility's nice. Like, they have a whole tennis facility for their students and stuff. And like, students can go, and they got pickleball courts, and they got tennis courts, and like, they're really nice. And the courts that they played on were incredible, nicer than anything I remember ever seeing at U of H when I was there. And you could just see like they had bigger support staffs, right? It just seemed like they had more assistant coaches. Now, were those assistant volunteer coaches who were there because it was a home match or something like that? Maybe. I don't know. But it just seemed like they just had more happening, that it was a funding issue. I'm not saying that's why we lost, right? But like,
I get your broader point. Yeah.
but like, you can see that like the facilities are better. They have more support staff, stuff like that. So I think it's not to say money will cure all, but once you start to have the nicer facilities and you do little things like that, and it's not that TCU, I would imagine, is spending a ton of money over us, right? But like, I parked next to the van, and I sent you and Dustin this picture, and it's like the UH Cougar sticker on the side of the van. and it's dried and cracked and peeling. And it's like, we can't get them a new sticker. Like, I know it doesn't mean anything, but at the same time, imagine you're a player. You've worked your whole life, you get a D1 scholarship,
Yeah.
and they
You're
put
you're an elite tennis player in some
you're
form or
yeah,
fashion.
yeah, you're one of the best tennis players that exist in the world, and you get on a sprinter van, which totally get the sprinter van. Golf uses it, things like that, because you play tournaments
Yeah,
that are
sprinter vans
local.
aren't bad. Yeah.
Yeah, they're nice, but like you can't get them a sticker. And like, again, this is gonna sound nitpicky, but it's like a white sticker. You can't even get them a red sticker. Like the red sticker costs too much. It's like, what do we got to do that? Like, do I need to buy the sticker? Like, do I need to get our former roommate who has a cricket to make the sticker? Like, what are we doing here? It can't cost that much to just do little things like that.
No, I agree, and it's worth pointing out, and that's why I try not to go too harsh on them because I don't feel like you're like when you lose to Baylor and TCU. I'd like to maybe be a little more competitive, but like you're not getting resourced in the same level as these teams, and I would hope I would hope additional and the full Big 12 share and all that stuff gets this team more support because I really think tennis is a good bank. Like even an elite tennis program doesn't need necessarily the bells and whistles of like a basketball. It is a good bang for your buck sport. And Houston's such an international city, and collegiate tennis especially such an international sport that I would hope getting the full Big 12 rev share will increase investment and yeah, and just make people realize that hey, like it doesn't take that much to be quite good at tennis. And like you said, it's a fine margin sport. And that's why I think I've tried to also take pains to point out how close the Cougars have been in a lot of the doubles matches this year. Unfortunately, Bobby, the Texas and OU matches from this most recent week weren't terribly close. Try as I might, other than maybe the three doubles matches against OU all being reasonably competitive, it's hard to find too many positives. And you know, generally, this was going to always be a front loaded conference schedule. I don't think or at any point, even before the season started, that this team was going to beat Baylor, Tech, OU, or Texas because those are all programs that are way, way, way ahead of where the Cougar tennis program has ever been. The winnable matches haven't come in the schedule yet, but it also doesn't feel great to see an 11 match losing streak. Several of those losses coming to teams that you would think were a lot more winnable, like kind of like
Yeah.
you alluded to, versus the conference opponents just mentioned. But Bobby, the winnable portion of the schedule is here. The Cougars will do a road trip, a little tricky, but a road trip to play at West Virginia on Friday evening in Cincy on Sunday at noon. West Virginia is 1-4 in Big 12 play, though. I would note they have conference or non-conference wins over Indiana and Virginia Tech. The Mountaineers have a number of common opponents with the Cougars, and we'll note to the Cougars' slight credit the four teams that we've played most recently: TCU, Baylor, and the two departing SEC programs. West Virginia did exactly as well as the Cougars did. They got one team point entirely from those four matches. But I would probably say Cincy is your best chance for a conference win. They lost 7-0 to West Virginia, are currently 0 for conference play. Like the Cougars, will note, I guess, that the Bearcats did get 2 points off Baylor and ended up being a home loss, but otherwise have been shut out by every conference opponent so far. And thanks to the weird way the AAC did their tennis schedule, it was very regional. Despite sharing a conference with them since the 2014 tennis season, we've only seen the Bearcats 3 times ever. Those were all Cougar wins. To this team's credit, though, this will be the first time these programs meet in Cincinnati specifically. At the risk of having too low standards, Bobby, I'd be happy with a competitive loss to West Virginia, maybe a 4-3 or a 5-2 with some tiebreakers and a win over Cincinnati. Decent chance we beat Cincy, Bobby. We will not finish dead effing last in the Big 12 standings. And if that's not something,
No, that's the goal. That's
exactly,
the goal this year.
if that doesn't get you excited at the end of this episode, I don't know what will. You want to end it here, friend?
Let's end it here, man. And I do you want to take the Dustin roll or do you want me to take the Dustin roll?
I'll take the Dustin roll and do a much worse job at it. Please follow us on the site formerly known as Twitter, but we will always still call Twitter at SH Podcast, shpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to get in touch with us, patreon.com/SH Podcast. If you want to support us, support our friends at the 1012 Network at TN12 Network, wherever you get podcasts and social media, podcast.bsky.social. Bobby, I think I covered all of it. What do we always say here at the end?
Go Coogs.